I see that folks have joined. I see some folks have commented. It's 10 here, but I was up late last night. So I kind of, as far as productivity, some mornings I wake up and I'm like, hit the ground running, ready to go. And then some mornings I feel like I drag, but when it hits about 10 p.m., I'm like getting stuff done, So are y'all like that? Like, does it vary for y'all, or I don't know. It does for me. And so last night I felt like suddenly kind of productive at 10 p.m., trying to knock some stuff out. And yesterday was kind of a productive day anyway. So I took Montana, which is my youngest sister. She's the baby of the family, and I'm one of 5. And she is 19, and we are going to do the Camino together. The Camino, I think Camino de Santiago. But we're still kind of scoping out. We might check out some different routes. But we're going to do that together in the fall in Spain. And she's never flown. She's never, she's never had a passport. So we went yesterday to get her passport picture made and then to go turn in all her paperwork and kind of gather all that stuff up. And, she's kind of like frantic about it. And when we got it all handed in, I was like, aren't you excited? And she was like, not really, because this means I have to actually get on a plane. She's super nervous about the plane ride. And but I'm really excited, and I don't have children yet. But I guess I know a lot of you are parents, and that aspect of like you want more for your children than you had. And I kind of feel that way with my younger siblings, because I was 10 when the next one was born. So it's like, Montana, you get to go explore and do some kind of trip like way earlier. I was 28 when I started the AT. And so almost 10 years sooner, you're getting to do something. And I didn't have my passport until I was like 30, So I don't know. I'm just really excited that I'm kind of getting her out there and introducing her to some of that at a younger age than I was, because, like I said, you always want better for your kids, and they're not my kids, but like, they might as well be in a way. So I'm pretty excited for that. Deanna, who is the admin for the Homemade Wanderlust backpacking forum, it's just me and her, and she does like 99% of the work there. She has done the Camino also, the Camino de Santiago. So I'm going to pick her brain for sure. We're going to call her on speakerphone and just chat with her. Let's see. David says, what is your opinion of the JetBoil line of products worth the money? Okay, so I have never had a JetBoil myself. So I can't speak from experience of like using it, but I have never seen somebody that used a JetBoil on trail that was like, this thing is garbage, it just doesn't work, or it leaves me hanging, I have to cold soak or anything like that. So I think that it's definitely like a tried and true brand, a good product. In my opinion, they're a little heavy. I never went with the JetBoil setups because I felt like they were a little heavy. Now, it just depends on, what you prefer. So some people don't care, they want something that's more durable and is sturdy, has a sturdy base. For me, I used a little $15 BRS stove. It's a little temperamental, but I think it works great, So, and it's a lot lighter. So it really is just a personal preference, but it is a good product. So if that's what you're asking, as far as for the price, is it a good product? Yes, it is. But if you haven't checked out that BRS stove, 15 bucks, it's a pretty good deal, but it's not going to be as stable, when you're cooking and stuff like that. So how do you stay cheerful, especially when cold and miserable? That is a great question. I think it takes a little while, I do try to, in life in general, to stay cheerful, because I feel like your attitude and, your thoughts and the things that you say and the things that you even think, the thoughts that you allow to penetrate your mind really do have an effect on your life and your mood. And so I can say to myself, well, this moment sucks. Like, this sucks. And cold rain to me is like my kryptonite. I hate it. but I can't change it, right? So I think learning the mental exercise of going, is this something that I can change? No. Is this something that I can influence? No. If you find out how to change or influence the weather, like by snapping your fingers and saying, I don't want it to rain right now, then please let me know that trick. But, you know, I think just realizing like there's nothing I can do about this except put on my raincoat or, you know, try to look at some positivity in it. So for me, when it's raining, I'm like, hey, this is a chance to pull out the macro lens and try to capture some like rain droplets on leaves or on flowers. Or, you know, on the Appalachian Trail, whenever it would rain, it would make things much more green and vibrant, and those little red F's would come out. And so just trying to, I think, focus on what is a positive aspect of this bad situation that's happening right now. If there can be something positive, what is it, and trying to find it. And if not, then knowing that like the bad times or the bad days make for the best stories usually, or make for some kind of growth. So I usually, when I have a bad experience, somehow I grow from that, right? So trying to like remember that, like how is this going to help me in the long run? Is it going to make me more mentally tough? Is it going to make me more, you know, weathered and just tough in general? Like, I don't know. And I find myself now, like before, if it was raining when I went into Walmart or something, I would be like, no, you know, before I started backpacking and stuff, or I just didn't want to get out in it, you know, and I still don't really want to, but I'm like, hey, I don't have to sleep in this tonight. So, you know, just knowing how later it affects me, like there usually is some positivity to it. So even if that just makes you appreciate the roof over your head a little bit more. So that's a good question though. Paul says, AT next year. Man, I want to do the AT again so bad. You know, I remember when I did the AT, I was like, I don't know if I'd want to do another thru-hike. And then like not long after Katahdin, I decided I was really itching to get out on the PCT. And, you know, I remember thinking as I've been working on the Triple Crown, like, why would somebody want to hike these same exact trails again? And honestly, I could see, because I'm like, man, I could probably do the AT again. And if I did the AT again, then I'd probably think, well, you know, might as well go ahead and knock out the PCT again. And then once you do 2, you got to do 3, right? And so I could just totally see that happening. I really can, but I'm going to try to go enjoy some other trails. So, but the AT is always calling to me. It's always whispering in my ear. Okay, Lot says, although you may have already mentioned it in the past, are you planning on gear changes for whatever you will attempt next? If so, what? I would like to try a quilt next summer. Just, you know, I've just heard all this fuss about like quilt versus sleeping bag, and so I kind of would like to try quilt. I've been thinking either enlightened equipment, or I know Katabatic has some good ones, so I've been doing a little bit of research on that. But I would just like to be able to have an opinion. You know, right now I just can share what I've heard from other people. So I think I'd like to kind of try to give that a go. Also, I think we will be probably using instead of the duplex, the triplex, I believe it's called, from Z-Packs. It's just so light, and it's a 3-person shelter. And I feel like me and Mom and Fancy would be a little snug up in the duplex. So I think we're going to go with that, which is, you know, similar. So it's not really that different. But as far as the packs go, I'm really tempted to try out some other pack. I'm really tempted to try something a little different, but I don't know, because the Z-Packs are called so light, and it does have a pretty high capacity as far as weight goes. And I'm going to be carrying some additional camera stuff, probably a gimbal and some other things that Aaron carried last year on the CDT. In addition to some of Fancy's stuff, my little dog that's going with us. So, you know, I'm not sure yet on the pack, but other than that, I think gear will be pretty similar to what it was. But yeah, the main thing I want to do, I'd like to try quilt, and we won't be out there when it's super cold. So I might not have a complete idea, but I'd like to test it out before we go, and it will be a little more chilly here. So let's see. Amy says, I have the EE Convert. It can be a quilt or a full sleeping bag. I love it. Just wasn't quite ready to commit to the quilt. Yeah. Yeah, and I remember people mentioning that, so I'll probably look into that too and check it out. But I would like to try different gear so I have, you know, a different perspective, and that way, you know, I can offer my opinions on, you know, different things. So, but yeah, that's a good question. Could you remind us from who you got the expression that you pack your fears? You know, I don't remember. Excuse me. I honestly do not remember where I gathered that piece of information. Has anyone else heard anybody else say that? Because I certainly probably heard it somewhere. You pack your fears. And it's so true. Like, you know, whatever. And I don't know if that's somebody that I was speaking with in person or if I read that somewhere. But it's true. It is very true. So in other words, you know, if you're afraid of being cold at night, you're going to have like a lot of additional weight, probably excess that you don't need in like clothes, right? Or a sleeping bag liner or a backup sleeping bag or something like that. You know, if you're afraid of drinking bad water, you're going to have a water filter and backup, and then maybe a backup for the backup, you know. So you can kind of judge if you had somebody dump their pack out, the redundancies in one area. And I'm not saying redundancies are bad or that you know, if it makes you feel more comfortable to do that, that you shouldn't do it. But it really is true. You pack your fears. And the more that you get comfortable with things, the more you kind of let those security blankets go. So, but yeah, I can't remember exactly where I heard that from, but it's very true. Have you seen that Therm-A-Rest has a new Neoair Uberlite? Have you heard anything about it? Seems it's much lighter, but with a thinner material. No, I have not. I might have to check that out. I'm not sure. Like, it's going to be interesting having my inflatable sleeping pad with a dog in my tent this summer. So I'm interested to see how that goes. But so I should stick with what I have. But no, I haven't seen that. I'm going to have to. In fact, I'm gonna on my computer right now. That way I can scope that out afterwards. But yeah, that's awesome. No, I had not heard of that. And see, that's why I love when we all get together and talk about stuff, because like, I'm sure we all learn, you know, different things. So that's awesome. Let's see, most important tip for starting my AT hike this year. I think the biggest thing I can say is take it slow. Like, when you start, truly listen to your body. Do not worry about what other people are doing. Do not worry about if they are doing 20 miles per day. I mean, if you're able to do that, that's wonderful. Myself, when I get out on a trail, 8 is like my max, and I'm done. I am done the first day after 8 miles. Whether I continue to push myself and injure myself is a different story, but my body is done around, sometimes even at like 7 miles, I feel it, you know, and I think, you know, that's okay. That's like, there's nothing wrong with that. And you will build up miles, things like that will come with time. But if you injure yourself right out the gate, then you're starting off on a shaky foundation, you know? So I think, I can tell you, like, don't quit on a bad day or embrace the suck or whatever. But like, if you don't make it past the first week because you injure yourself, because you were just running, you know, just trying to do too much at one time. So really listen to your body, take it slow to start with, and the miles will come. So I think that's a pretty important one. Let's see, Colin says, hi from snowy DC. I had the first chance to bust out my Andrew Skirka glove combo you recommended from Montana. Worked like a charm. Yes, good. I'm so glad somebody else tried that and liked it. But I'm telling you, those possum down gloves with those Showa gloves over them are, like, I can't imagine going out and being on the trail and not using that combo now when it's cold. When you have cold rain, it's wonderful. And I imagine any glove liner would work, I assume, but I've just tried the possum down gloves myself, so that's awesome. So I want to get out on the trail. I want the AT, but still have arm problems. I mean, the AT is a wonderful experience, but the thing is, like, I feel like people think that if they, like, that the only option is to thru-hike or something like that. And I think that as long as you're getting out there and enjoying nature, a thru-hike, and I've said this before, is literally just sections woven together. So when folks are like, I'm just a section hiker, it's like, no, you're a backpacker. Like, you're doing the same thing. And honestly, I think people that section hike a long distance trail like that have more grit to them in the way that you never get your trail legs and you have to deal with the logistics of getting to and from the endpoint. And I think that you're more dedicated to do it over an extended period of time, you know, rather than knocking it all out at one time. So that's really my opinion on section hiking a long trail. So, you know, maybe whatever problems you're having with your arms or whatever physical problems, maybe doing, you know, smaller stretches and giving yourself time to rest would work better. Kelly says, cowboy camping. Are the bugs insane? I really want to try it, but scared of all the critters crawling on my face. That's a wonderful question. If you are getting a lot of bugs on you, like if it's very mosquito-ish, so like you're in a cloud of mosquitoes, just go on and get in your tent. But like, I don't know, I feel like, you know, like the gnats and the flies and stuff like that, like I just didn't, it wasn't a problem at night, you know. Now, I mean, when you have your headlamp on, you might have moths and things like that that are going to be attracted to it. But as far as while I was sleeping, I don't ever, you know, recall that. Maybe if you're in a spot where there are a bunch of ants running around or something, but you're going to see that, you know. But I just, yeah, cowboy camping, I've never been like, oh my gosh, the bugs kept me up all night long, you know. So you should try it. And you can always, like if you've just had enough, if you're like, oh, a bug got on me and I don't like it, get up and put your tent up, you know. So, and then you get good practice putting your shelter up in the dark if you don't already have that practice. So it's not something that you have to like commit to and then you can't change, right? So it's like, if you decide, no, I can't do this and I want to set up my stuff, then you can get up and do that. So I think you should go for it. I think if you really want to try it, you should do it. And then just something about just laying there and looking at the stars and just, it feels as free as you can get. And then you're like, man, I'm as cool as John Wayne, you know, I'm cowboy camping. I don't know. It's exciting. You should try it. I'm so happy that you're doing the Q&A during the day in Europe. The question I always wanted to have answered was what you think about merino. I see you don't wear that much. So I do, like I wear merino wool on my socks. And actually the top, I don't have that top on right now. I had it on yesterday. But I do have shirts that I sleep in that are merino wool. The one that I have is a little bit lighter than the synthetic one that I wore when it got colder, the Arc'teryx shirt. But so I have had smart wool shirts that I sleep in. And actually on the PCT I had a pair of smart wool leggings. So I do wear some of it. As far as hiking in it, I don't. I know some people do, but I really like having a button-up shirt. So it's not necessarily that I don't like the wool, it's that I don't like having a shirt that I can't unbutton. I just like being able to regulate the temperature more and the sleeves roll up easier. It doesn't like cling to me as much. And then I like hiking in shorts. So it's not that I don't like merino, it's that I like the functionality of, you know, some of the other things, but I do like sleeping in it. So I like the leggings and I like the shirts. So what are your next hiking plans? So I am going this summer with my mom and my dog Fancy, and it will be mom's first backpacking trip. She will be 60. We may do like a little test run of some of the stuff, some of the gear and whatever beforehand. It'd be a smart idea. But so she's not like, you know, an experienced backpacker or anything. Just a day hiker right now, but we're working on that. So Fancy also is an interesting story because she's a rescue. And when I say rescue, I mean I was down in the backyard with Hank one morning, my little brown dog that likes to pee in the background of the videos sometimes. We were down in the backyard. It was real early in the morning, and on the other side of my fence, there's like a pile of trash. And I heard Hank kind of whining, and I look over at the pile of trash and I see this little puppy there that starts barking at us. And I was like, oh no, Hank, what have you done? You found a puppy, you know? And so she wouldn't come to me, but I finally lured her in with some food, holding it near the fence. She was nearly starved to death. She was just so scrawny. And so I just finally snatched her up over the fence and brought her in the house. And I've got like gas logs here, and I mean, it was in the middle of the summer, so they were turned off, but She ran and got behind those gas logs. Like, she was so scared of me. She would not let me touch her willingly for maybe a month. I mean, it took a while. She was very, very skittish, and she still is a little skittish. She still has some issues, but we've made a lot of progress. So, and I had intended to give her to somebody else to find her a home. And I'm just all the time finding some animals, it seems like, and I find a home or something, you know, somewhere for them to go. So it was going to be the same thing with her, but I made the mistake of not getting her vaccinations immediately. I will never make that mistake again. I don't care if I find a dog on the side of the road and I'm going to give it away that day. I'm taking it to get its shots, because she ended up with parvo. And I took her in, and honestly, y'all, like, I couldn't even make this up, but on to the exact date, 1 year of when Sugar died, my blue tick that passed away while I was on the AT, I found out that Fancy had parvo. And I was like, here we go, another dog that's going to die on the same exact date, or that, you know, like, I have neglected to do what I feel like I should have for this, even though it's a stray that I'm planning to give away. And so the vet called me, and he was like, she has parvo. You know, I know that you just found this little dog, so if you want, I can go ahead and put her down. You know, parvo is a rough thing for them to have to fight, and it's not cheap. And I was like, Dr. Colley, that's my vet, and he's been my vet. I've known him since I was a little girl. I was like, do you really think that I'm going to tell you to put that dog down? He's like, no, I didn't think that you would, but I'm going to go and I'm going to put her on some IVs and we'll see if we can't save this dog. So anyway, she ended up pulling through just fine. So anyway, she ended up being Hank's sister. And so yeah, she's going this summer. So the three of us are going out there. And then in the fall, my sister and I are going to do the Camino de Santiago in Spain. So that's the plan right now for this year. Could potentially end up squeezing something else in the winter. I would like to do the Florida Trail at some point. You know, maybe even the Vermont Long Trail at some point. You know, I've done some of that while I was on the AT. But the next bigger hike will be the TA in New Zealand. Trish says, are you doing anything to prep your new pup for hiking? I rescued a new dog last year and I'm looking to make him my new hiking buddy. Any tips? So I've been taking her on a lot of walks. Like, she's always had, here there's a fenced yard, and at my mom's, when she's over there, she has like a shock collar thing that connects to something that plugs into an outlet at the house. So it's like an Invisicollar type thing. So she's never really walked on a leash all that much. So we've been taking her for, you know, several walks a week, trying to do it daily, but it just hasn't worked completely like that. But I also got her, she's got a new pack, and I'm trying to think, it's rough wear, but I can't remember the style of it right now. But anyway, so it's the one where you can detach the pouches from the harness. But so the other night I introduced the harness to her, and somebody suggested, the fellow that sent it to me, actually, he's a trail angel in Bend, and his dog uses that pack too. But anyhow, he suggested that when I introduce the pack to her, don't do it in the house. Do it once we're already kind of on the walk and with treats and stuff. So that's kind of what I did. When I put it on, she was kind of shaken, but once we kept moving, she was fine with it. So all I did was just the harness though. And so eventually I'll go ahead and add the pouches. And so we've just been walking mainly in my mom's neighborhood and stuff like that. We haven't hit any trails yet, but we will be. So we're just kind of doing it a little at a time. You know, I didn't want to get her out in the middle of the woods with a new pack and on a leash, just going like, what is this, you know? So we've been taking it kind of step by step and real slow. And she's still skittish. And like I said, when I put the leash on her or the harness, she kind of shakes, like trembles, you know, because she's like, oh, what are you doing to me? But then once we get going and she's having a good time, you know, she's adjusting pretty well. So I think she's going to do fine, but it's just, you know, you would think after all this time, she's about 3 now, you would think that she would realize that I'm not going to do something to like harm her, but she still is a little bit skittish. So I really do think that this experience will help us bond though a lot. So I don't know if that helps you at all, but after all of this, I might have some better tips for you for sure. David says, do you have trouble keeping up with your email? Yes. And so I want to remind y'all, I've said this before, but I know that Patreon's like a dynamic thing, right? Like you got folks coming in and you got folks leaving and stuff like that. So the best way to get in touch with me if you are a patron is through Patreon on the messages, because I come there and I check that once a day or so. I'm on Patreon once a day for sure. But I do like batch emails and messages and stuff like that. But the email, it really does get behind. Like it gets filled up and I get way behind on that. So if you have sent me an email and I haven't responded to it, do not think that I'm just like ignoring you or whatever, because it really does get backed up. And I get like offers to put gear on the channel, I get the gear for free and do a review for this, backpacking projector so you can watch movies while you're backpacking and stuff. And I mean, it's just, sometimes it just gets lost, and some of it may end up in spam or whatever. So that's why I always say, if you're a patron, the best way to get in touch with me is through the messages on Patreon, because I will respond to you there for sure. So, all right, y'all. Well, thank y'all so much, and I'll see y'all next time. Have a good rest of the week. All right, bye.